Hello and welcome to yet another exciting episode of Eco Africa, focusing more on solar energy and its untapped potential. But I'm not doing this show alone. I am joined by my co-presenter, Chris Elams, all the way from Nigeria.
Hi Sandra, nice to be with you again. We have an exciting 26 minutes in store from Africa and Europe. Coming up on the show today, we'll look at how to save water in Tunisia. Plus, Albania, the hotspot for seals in Europe. And keeping the roads safe for toads. Although there is so much sun in Africa, most of the solar power plants are somewhere else, like China, the US, Japan, or Germany. The potential on the African continent is huge, but there's still a lack of major investment. We'll go to Cameroon to see an example of how solar energy can transform lives and create jobs.
These days, Clementine Brima's sewing machine hums all day long because she no longer relies on electricity from a diesel generator. The seamstress lives in the village of Mbang, which isn't connected to the national grid. This new sewing machine is solar-powered.
It's changed my life a lot. I can work much faster, so I don't lose customers. When a customer comes in, I can get the job done very quickly.
The sewing machine was donated by the Green Youth Association of Cameroon, which teamed up with the company Empower for the project promoting green energy. There is a huge demand for energy in Cameroon, but the supply is unreliable. In rural areas, over 60% of the villages are off-grid. But even in the cities, power outages are nothing unusual.
We know that a lot of communities are off-grid, so that's why we decided to concentrate on rural areas. But we're aware that there are frequent power outages in cities too. So we decided that in the pilot project, we would give the sewing machines to people both in the cities and in rural areas.
Around 40 of these sewing machine sets worth several hundred euros have been donated mainly to young women. The sets include a battery and a solar panel which powers the sewing machine and 3 lamps.
It's a very innovative set. This is the first time that something like this is being used in Cameroon, and the first time that Empower is stocking this equipment. Of course, the sets need to be serviced, and that poses some challenges too.
The servicing is done by Empower, and the whole project is financed by a Finnish NGO. Before the young women receive their sewing machines, they are given seamstress training and learn how to use the machines. Clementine Birma is one of the trainers. The scheme is a great opportunity for the young women.
The women we train are socially disadvantaged. Without our support, the training wouldn't help them much because their families wouldn't be able to afford a sewing machine.
The trainees say the solar-powered sewing machines make life much easier.
Before, there were problems all the time. You'd cut out your pattern, but then the machine wouldn't work. With this one, sewing is much easier.
The project was launched in February 2022 and is still in the pilot phase, but it's expected to continue.
For the environmental group, solar energy is good for the environment. But now we can see that it's also good for society. It improves people's standard of living, even if that's not the first thing people think about.
Clementine Birma would agree. She's proud to be a pioneer in her village and proud of her new sewing machine.
For a start, it looks really lovely. When I take it home, everyone admires it. Everyone comes over and asks how they can get one too.
If every household in Cameroon had just one solar-powered piece of equipment, the benefits would be considerable.
The more that small initiatives create role models for others, the better. One example is a young woman from Nigeria. Everyone calls her the Solar Queen. This week's Eco Hero not only gives workshop on solar power, she also runs her own small business. Watch out, our enthusiasm is contagious.
Jumoke Adepoju isn't easily daunted. The 27-year-old installs solar systems, like here, on a house in Shagamu, in Ogun State, Nigeria. She's an expert in solar energy and the only woman on the team.
I wouldn't say it's easy, neither would I say it's difficult. Going to the climbing roof, putting panels on them, like it's not all that easy, but then I think determination, and if you love what you do, you'll be able to, surmount all these little challenges.
Her boss and mentor is Damilola Ashaleye, known as the Solar Queen. She founded her solar tech company back in 2007 when only a few were betting on renewable energies. Back then, she had to convince her customers that her technology, as well as her expertise, were reliable.
When I started the company, I always get the question, do you know what you're saying? Can I speak to the man in charge? Are you sure you can answer my technical questions? All these biases and statements made me want to actually do more.
Damilola Ashaleye was determined to fight this kind of prejudice and attract more women to the sector. In 2017, she founded the Ashdam Academy for Solar Technology, but it was mostly men who signed up for the courses.
We sat down and thought, how can we encourage more women to apply for the training? And this was actually what brought about the Solar Queen Scholarship. And with that, we've been able to actually sometimes offer 100% scholarship to women.
A scholarship for women was the answer. She was able to recruit NGOs, companies, and the German Development Agency as sponsors. Solar Queen scholarship winners are between 19 and 29 years old, and many have no previous experience.
Once you're able to do secondary school mathematics and also be able to speak English fluently, then you can actually blend in with our trainings and acquire the right skills and expertise for you to be able to be successful.
Over the course of 3 months, the participants learned to install and maintain photovoltaic systems. At the end, they receive a certificate, their ticket to a new job.
We need to close the gender gap in the renewable energy space. We need to close the gender gap in the technical space. And we need to have highly skilled women also operating in these roles.
For example, Mercy Olabiran and Mary Ayeni at the company Zoom Logitech. Mercy used to work in sales for the company, and Mary was a makeup artist. Quite a leap.
It's a male-dominated sector, but the world is talking about gender equality now, and I want to encourage ladies out there come into solar panel installation, that they can do what a male can do.
Today, they are installing a solar system for a hotel in Oyo town. The hotel used to be connected to the public power grid.
Since 4 days now, there's no power supply. And if they want to run this kind of business, we have to have another ways to power supply. Today, we are installing a 5 kVA solar panel system.
So far, around 250 women have completed the Solar Queen training. More than 9,000 have taken part in training courses and seminars on solar technology. We need even more, says Damilola. The potential for solar energy in Nigeria is huge, but the switch to photovoltaic systems is difficult, not only because of money, but also due to a lack of skilled workers.
In Nigeria, we have about 60% of us living without access to energy, and that 60%, maybe about 90 million people. The problems can be solved within 1 day. The problems can be solved by one person.
And that's why Damilola Ashaleye is hoping for more women like Jumoke Adepoju. Her former student takes women from the Solar Queen program along to work with her. Today, they are equipping a kiosk in Ibadan with a mini solar power system. For Adekboju, it's a routine assignment, but for her student, it's a milestone, getting solar energy to light up the darkness.
Very inspiring. Now let's move on to an idea that is sustainable and beneficial for farmers and gardeners around the world. It's an ancient irrigation method from Tunisia using clay jugs to water plants.
And it is important that behaviors change. Farmers use up to 80% of all water used in the country. The new irrigation system is simple and it allows plants to thrive on less water. It is this week's Doing a Bit.
Olive trees are hardy plants that do well in arid regions, up to a point. In the past, there used to be adequate rainfall here in northern Tunisia, but due to climate change, it's become a lot drier. And now farmer Mohammed Ben Ismail transports water to the orchards from a well that is far away, water that's becoming increasingly scarce. So he's filling olas, clay pots that he's buried in the ground. The unglazed vessels have porous walls and are quite large. If the soil dries out, the pots act as a reserve to keep the roots well supplied. The trees just get the right amount of water.
This method's better than direct watering because when you pour water onto the ground, the water around the tree evaporates.
And better still, this ancient method does the job using around 60% less water. Chemist and olive tree expert Iman Queslati is carrying out tests on trees here in Ben Ismail's orchard.
When the weather is humid or when it rains, no water seeps out of the vessels. When it's dry and the trees need water, their roots can absorb it directly from the supply in the buried pots.
And there's another advantage. These trees produce around 20% more olives, despite less water being used. The Ola Method dispenses water much more efficiently.
And how about you? If you're also doing your bit, tell us about it. Visit our website or send us a tweet. #DoingYourBit. We share your stories.
Staying on the topic of water, Rwanda is actually experiencing what too much water can do. Massive rainfall caused trees to fall, destroyed houses and also the fields. And what is the most terrible, more than 100 have died. In recent years, Rwanda has witnessed a series of climate-related hazards such as floods, landslides and droughts that have left devastating effects, particularly on those with low adaptive capacity and resilience to climate change. A project in northern Rwanda aims to help people better adapt to the consequences of climate change.
Coaxing a decent harvest out of the soil is tough here in the mountainous Gikumbi district of northern Rwanda. Eugene Hajinamana and his wife work from dawn till dusk. Their fields are on steep slopes, so when it rains, the water flushes the soil down into the valley. If things don't change, the farmer fears his family could face starvation, since this is their sole source of income.
Look at these bananas. We used to harvest banana bunches weighing over 50 kilos. So looking at this one, you can see we have a problem.
A situation made worse by climate change. Heavy rainfall alternating with extreme dry periods has rendered entire slopes barren, meaning they're no longer suitable for farming.
It's difficult to farm in these mountainous areas with such excessive rainfall. It causes land, crops, and fields to be frequently washed away, not to mention the loss of life among local people. Under these conditions, farmers cannot hope to produce harvests without a sustainable solution to all these problems.
This is where the Green Chikumbi program comes in. Agriculture experts visit farmers to show them how to respond to the changing weather conditions and how to protect their soil. It's hoped the project will benefit around 500,000 people across the 800 square kilometers that the Chikumbi district covers. It has a budget of nearly 30 million euros and is funded by the UN's Green Climate Fund. With no time to waste, everyone pitches in to put the experts' insights into practice.
It increases our awareness of climate change and how to adapt our farming methods to it. We're taught how to restore our abandoned land, how to fight erosion during the rainy season, and how to store rainwater for irrigation during the dry season. It's very useful.
One key is to build terraces on the slopes. This allows more rainfall to seep into the soil and slows down the water flow into the valley. Plus, the terraces are easier to plant crops on. Horizontal troughs are also being created to slow down and divert fast-flowing runoff water. That water can then be collected and stored in underground tanks to be used later for irrigation.
The radical terraces has double impact. Has impact to reduce the soil erosion, the water retained in the soil, contribute to the productivity, and also the fertilization, application of the fertilizers going where due to the establish those benches, terraces.
Out on the terraces, the farmers also plant additional trees. Their roots will over time protect the soil from erosion, while their leaves will provide shade during dry season. With the soil staying moist for longer, maize, beans and potatoes grow far better, and the farmers can improve their yields. A look across the valley and beyond reveals the dividends of the Green Chikumbi project. The arid brown of depleted slopes is gradually disappearing, replaced by lush greenery and farmland.
From Rwanda to the coast of Albania, the southern European country is experiencing a boom in tourism. At the same time, scientists are researching the country's seal population, which live in caves by the sea.
Exactly. The seals are in hiding. They need a calm environment to give birth to their pups. But their habitat is shrinking all the time, and now they find themselves on the endangered species list. We follow the researchers to work.
The Albanian coastline is still home to largely untouched nature. These caves might be one of the last refuges of the Mediterranean monk seal. But researchers at the Karaburun Sazan National Marine Park can't be sure. There are very few seals left, and centuries of brutal hunting have made them extremely shy. So the researchers have installed camera traps in the caves to help them track down some of the few remaining specimens.
The cameras installed in the caves have helped us with our scientific observations. We've counted at least 4 individuals so far. 2 were spotted in the Bay of Vlora, and a couple here in the western part of the Karaburun Peninsula.
The last recordings of the monk seals were taken in January. They haven't been spotted anywhere since. Once found all over the Mediterranean, the species is now threatened with extinction. The researchers are gathering data to prevent that, because they can only protect what they know. One reason for their decline is the extreme overfishing in these waters.
Seals feed mainly on fish, squid and shellfish. Less fish means less food for them.
Another great threat to the seals is mass tourism. Hotels have been springing up all over the Adriatic coastline, including Albania's. Once peaceful marine areas are now overrun with water sports, leaving less and less space for nature. The Mediterranean Sea itself has also changed. It's getting warmer and more polluted. The researchers want to provide evidence of the changes with data.
We conduct monthly targeted monitoring of seawater quality at 12 different sites because the coastal ecosystem has a direct impact on flora and fauna, and in that way on threatened marine species.
The first results confirm their fears. Climate change has already left its mark on the flora and fauna of the marine area. The warmer water has allowed invasive species from the tropics to infest the area, brought in by the global shipping trade. Native species have been disappearing as it becomes too warm for them. This combination has upset the sea's natural balance.
Climate change directly or indirectly affects endangered species. It modifies the rhythm of their life cycle, it threatens fish stocks and disrupts marine ecosystems. The Mediterranean monk seal is one of the species affected by these changes and by global warming.
Of the tens of thousands of Mediterranean monk seals that once populated the area, only around 350 are left. To thrive again, these sea mammals need large protected areas along the Mediterranean coastline where they can live undisturbed.
Wow, great. Now onto a tiny species that some find repulsive and others find cute and cuddly. No matter your point of view, they deserve to be protected. I'm talking about toads. In South Africa, activists are searching for toads at night. We went along on their quest to find the endangered amphibian.
On rainy nights like this, most creatures seek shelter. But here, near Cape Town, it's when toads make their way from gardens to bodies of water to breed. The journey is hazardous. That's why Susie Jakul co-founded the organization Toad Nuts. She and other volunteers spend night after night patrolling the dark roads to make sure the toads get across safely.
This is a western leopard toad. It's an endangered species. It's also a flagship species for the biodiversity in the area that we live in. And you only find this creature in Cape Town in the whole wide world. That's why it's so special.
The work also makes for some incredible contact with these apparently trusting creatures. The volunteers use an app to record data on the toad's sex, size, and the direction they're heading. The animals are then released near the ponds where they breed.
I can't make a difference with all of the things that go around in the world and all of the animals that die and go extinct, but I can make a difference in my own backyard about an animal that is going extinct.
After analyzing data from multiple sources, Cape Town's Environmental Education Trust designated several sites for the construction of toad tunnels, underground passageways that keep the amphibians safe from traffic.
So we've known for a number of years that road mortalities of western leopard toads are one of the biggest impactors on the populations. And this pilot project was based on work done in Europe. And the intention is to channel toads through the tunnels to the other side. And already in the last couple of days, we've had toads moving through.
Many of the toads' breeding ponds are scattered throughout suburban areas. That's why Toad Nuts co-founder Alison Faraday wants locals to be aware of the animals' plight. Cars are just one of the threats they face. Swimming pools and family pets are also hazardous.
As we approach toad season, we like to do public relations events to educate the public as to the migration that's happening under their noses during winter. And it helps people to really have a sympathy and a kind of empathy for this animal. Frogs aren't mammals, so we really do have to encourage people to identify with the frogs as if they are, and for them to conserve them in their gardens and in their suburbs.
Around 40% of the world's amphibian species are threatened with extinction. Even though it's a global issue, the volunteers from Toad Nuts are determined to do their bit locally. They hope their interventions and education programs will at least keep the western leopard toad alive and well.
Oh, That went by all so quickly. Like they say, time flies when you are having fun. I hope you've had an amazing episode, and I hope it has been very informative for you, and you've picked quite a number of ideas here and there on how to preserve our environment. And of course, it's been amazing hosting the show with you, Chris. Hopefully, I'll see you all next week for a new exciting episode of Eco Africa.
Thanks, Sandra. It was a great show. Stay tuned and write your comments on our social media platforms. We'll be back next week, same time, same place. For now, goodbye from me in Nigeria.